بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. My dear students, hello again, and nice to meet you again in our sixth lecture and our sixth session. Today's meeting or today's class will be about, our fifth part of the American literature, okay, which is, as you see, is modernism. Modernism is our sixth part, and it's the sixth, or let's say the fifth movement that we are here discussing as a sort of an introduction to general introduction to American literature, and that is supposed to be the one before the last. So we still have one more movement and one more part to go before we start with the samples and real literary American works. Modernism, as you see in the introduction to this lecture, is just to know about what is modernism. And first of all, we need to differentiate between modernism as a movement, as a literary movement, and its let's say literally, okay, اللي هو linguistically أو اللي هو definition that is used in the dictionary for the word modern. So when we talk about modernism, we do not exactly refer to the chronological order or designation of the word. When we talk about modernism, we talk about a literary movement that took place in Europe first, and then extended or moved to the United States. Don't the first, as you see the first two lines of this slide, don't confuse modernist movement with the standard dictionary definition of modern, because they are different. Modernism in literature is not chronological, يعني is not a time word, okay, or doesn't refer to time, means modern of this time exactly. Okay, it's not a chronological designation, classification, or sign. Okay, rather it consists of literary work possessing certain loosely defined characteristics. So modernism doesn't really refer to the chronological sign or chronological classification. It refers to type of work, literary work that is known of being loose in characteristics. Now, what is modernism? Modernism, the following are characteristics of modernism. These are the different characteristics of modernism as a literary movement. It is marked by number one, modernism is marked by, is known by, okay, known as being strong and intentional break with tradition. يعني a movement that doesn't go with the traditions, it goes against, it always breaks the traditions, okay, out traditions or the conventions of of making literary works. This break includes a strong reaction against established religious, political, and social views. So this movement is against religion, against establishments, against politics, against social views. Two, belief that the word created in the act of perceiving it, which means what? The word is what we say it. What we say the word, it is. Okay? If we think of the word as, let's say good, we see it, it's good. If it is bad, it's bad. The word is something that, it is what we say this word. It's just the way we perceive it, the way we see it. Okay? As it is said, in one of Shakespeare's, plays, it's, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Okay? So the word is just as we perceive it. Three, there is no such thing as absolute truth all things are relative. Anything is relative. Anything is not يعني specific and no and is not questionable. No absolute truth. No definite 100% truth. No, anything is relative. Okay, يعني can be negotiated, can be يعني positive or negative, plus or minus, relative, نسبي. Okay, no connection with history or institutions. This movement is not connected to history or institutions or any establishment. يعني it's free. It makes itself free of history اللي هو past and institutions, all kinds of institutions, establishments, or even including institutions here, including traditions, customs, laws, rules, social rules. Their experience, the modernists, their experience is that of alienation, just being aside, away, not part of, loss, okay, and despair. This is their experience of being away from others, being isolated, and the loss of losing things, and living in despair. 5, championship of the individual and celebration of inner strength. They believe in individual and the strength of the individual, okay, and celebrating the inner strength. Every individual has strength, has a strength in him. Sorry, in himself or in herself. Life is unordered. Okay, for the modernists, life is not ordered. Okay, life is unordered. This is also a characteristic of modernism. They don't believe in the life as being something ordered. Should be in a perfect order. 1, 2, 3. No, for them life is not ordered. 7, concerned with the subconscious. Okay, they deal with the with things, with the matters that individuals let's say do not think about or cannot think about. Okay, so they encourage the subconsciousness. Okay, what goes beyond the mind. Okay. Next is here directly to modernism in America, or the American modernism. It's also known as what? As the lost generation. Modernism in America, well, modernist known as what? As the lost generation. This is important. Okay, American writers, of the 1920s brought a modernism to the United States. For writers like Hemingway and Fitzgerald, okay, these are important also names as examples of modernists. World War I destroyed the illusion of acting virtuously, brought about good. Like the British contemporaries, American modernists rejected traditional institutions and forms. American modernists include examples. So American modernists is just like their British contemporaries, like their British people who lived at the same time, because they took from British modernists, or they were just sort of they influenced very much. Okay, they were influenced very much by the British modernists, so they brought this from what they learned, from the British modernists. So the American modernists also reject the traditional, like their British contemporaries. They rejected traditional institutions, اللي هم traditional social institutions, or customs, or thoughts, or traditions, okay, and social rules. Okay, these are examples of these modernists, like Ernest Hemingway, with an example. The sun also rises. Hemingway is a very famous figure in American literature, and this this novel here is very, very famous. Okay, very famous in the American literature. Chronicles the meaningless lives of the lost generation. Okay, then Farewell to Arms also narrates the tale of an ambulance driver searching for meaning in World War I. Okay, Ernest Hemingway, a very important literary figure representing modernism, and these are two examples of his works, two very famous novels, The Sun Also Rises and A Farewell to Arms. Then number 2 is another famous figure اللي هو F. Scott Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald في عنا اللي هو with his work اللي هو Great Gatsby اللي هو that shows through its protagonist اللي هو the protagonist of this novel اللي هو J. Gatsby, the corruption of American dream. This novel represents or shows the corruption of the American dream. 3 is John Dos Passos, Hart Crane, and Seward Anderson, and other prominent writers of the period. These are other examples, other names of this period اللي هو المودرنزم. Next, which is also very important, اللي هو talking about discussing the elements of the American literature. Modernism was an actual wave that originated in Europe, as most of the other, movements originated in Europe and then extended or moved to the States. This movement swept the United States during the 20th century. Modernism impacted, affected this movement, affected different fields of arts or studies, including music, art, literature. Okay, by radically undoing traditional forms, by breaking the traditional forms, going against traditional forms, politics, religion. Okay, expressing a sense of modern life, expressing the modern life, what is happening, the real suffering of American people, as sharp break from the past and its rigid conventions. In literature, the elements of modernism are thematic, formal, and stylistic. The elements are, 3. They are thematic, referring to the themes of the works of literature, and then refers to the elements refer to the form, and then to the style of writing. These themes or these thematic elements are are as follows. The first one is destruction. This is as one or the first theme, or one of the themes of modernism is destruction. Destruction here referring to the destruction that the world, overall, experienced, and particularly in the United States, experienced, after or during and after World War I, the First World War. Okay, and this type of destruction was really reflected and very much let's say detailed. A lot of works of literature at that time of year. At that time of the American literature, let's say. Okay, so which includes here the time of the modernism period. So here referring to destruction of the World War II and the chaos, اللي هي الفوضى, that resulted through and after World War I, the First World War. So during the First World War, the world witnessed the chaos and destruction of which modern man was capable. The modernist American literature produced during time reflects such themes of destruction and chaos. So the works of literature at that time, okay, reflect the chaos and the destruction of the First World War. But chaos and destruction are embraced, adopted, but as they signal a collapse of Western civilization's classical tradition. Literary modernists celebrated the collapse of conventional forms. Okay, literary modernists, because they are against the conventional forms, against the traditional forms. So that was sort of a celebration for them. This is a new beginning of a new generation, okay, putting the past and traditions and conventional forms behind them. Modernist novels destroy conventions by reversing traditional norms such as gender, racial roles, notable, and that is notable in F. Scott Fitzgerald, اللي هو the Great Gatsby, as an example of a novel that reflects this theme, the theme of destruction that goes against that is shown that shows reverse in traditional norms, and that goes against what is known before, norms such as gender اللي هو sex and racial roles. Okay, اللي هو whites against blacks, and slavery. They also destroy conventional, the modernists, okay, also destroy the conventional forms of language. Okay, yeah, not even themes, but also language is also destroyed, shown. The destruction is also reflected in the language, used in their works of literature. Language by deliberately breaking rules of syntax and structure. Okay, so that is what is meant here when they also show these modernists or modernist writers show the destruction of conventional forms in the structure and syntax of their literary works. By not following the traditional rules, okay, laws of the language in syntax and the structure اللي هو الجرامر, and syntax اللي هو the let's say the knowledge or the science of building sentences اللي هو علم بناء الجملة. okay, وقواعد الجملة كانوا يمشوا عكسها أو خلينا نقول ما يطبقوا قواعد اللغة في تركيب اللغة وقواعد اللي هي الجرامر of the language. Okay, this is just as part of reflecting the destruction, okay, of that period of time as a result of the war and the result of the chaos. An example of that William Faulkner's novel, هذا برضه مهم جدا. William Faulkner and his novel اللي هو The Sound and the Fury. برضه The Sound and the Fury is another famous novel as an example of modernism, which boldly rejects the rules of language, against the rules of language, against the rules of syntax and structure of the language. As Faulkner invents new words, okay, it's part of being different, as a modernist. Faulkner invented new words and adopts a first-person narrative method, interior monologue. Okay, invents a new kind of first-person narrative اللي هو narrator who uses I point of view, بعدين interior monologue اللي هو using interior monologue اللي هو talking to oneself. Okay, sort of a conversation, but inside the individual, inside oneself. Okay, inside the individual, him or herself. Okay, a conversation that takes place inside the person. Next theme اللي هو fragmentation. Okay, that is also another theme of modernism اللي هو fragmentation here اللي هو about in their works modernists use broken characters, broken themes, broken narratives, broken images, يعني not complete. Okay, and that's also a reflection of that period of time of the result of that war, First World War. Related to the theme of destruction, that's of course related to the theme of destruction اللي هو result of First World War. Okay, is the theme of fragmentation. Okay, the fragmentation اللي هو pieces, cuts. Okay, fragmentation in modernist literature is thematic. And refers to the theme of the work, refers to the main idea of the work, as well as formal, refers to the form, plot, characters, themes, images, and narratives. Form itself are broken, not complete. They are just reflecting the destruction of the war. Take, for instance, okay, this is important, as an example, what T.S. Eliot. برضه T.S. Eliot is a very important figure, an important name to be remembered. T.S. Eliot with his poem, The Waste Land. Okay, important example and important name. اللي هو the poem of T.S. Eliot as an example of this fragmentation theme, which depicts a modern, which illustrates, pictures, shows a modern wasteland of crumbled cities, cities that are, cut into small pieces or separated, into small areas, small pieces, crumbled cities. Or even, talk about, crumbled cities, talk about, cities that are not developed, cities that are still in a way primitive in their services. Okay, crumbled cities that are also destroyed. Okay, the poem itself is fragmented. The poem itself, as structured, is fragmented, consisting of broken stanzas. It consists of broken stanzas and sentences that resemble the cultural detritus, okay, and detritus through اللي هو same as the meaning of depress اللي هو little pieces, through which the speaker اللي هو modern man wades, okay, moves forward. William Faulkner's novel, another example, such as The Sound and the Fury, are also fragmented in form, consisting of disjointed and non-linear narratives. Modernist adopts fragmentation as a literary form, since it reinforces the fragmentation of reality and contradicts Hegelian notions of totality and wholeness. Okay, Hegelian notions. Okay, this is a name after Friedrich Hegel, a scientist or a philosopher, notions, regarding to his totality, idea of totality and wholeness. Okay, next, okay, is another theme, theme of cycle. Modernist, literature is concerned with representing modernity, which by its very definition supersedes itself, takes the place of itself, okay, or substitutes itself. Modernity must, in order to emerge, to rise, to start, annihilate the past, destroy the past. Problematically, modernity must annihilate itself the very moment it is actualized. It becomes as a reality. As the moment it emerges, it starts, begins, it becomes a part of the past. Modernist literature represents the paradox of modernity through themes of cycle and rejuvenation اللي هو to become, you know, to be renewed or renew, and rejuvenation اللي هو renewal, okay, to start again, you know, or to be back to be young. Okay, Eliot's speaker, as an example, this is important. Eliot's speaker in the Wasteland, the poem اللي قلنا عنها in the previous page, famously declares, "These fragments I have shored against my ruins." Okay, the speaker must construct meaning by resembling the pieces of history. Importantly, there is rebirth. You know how the recycle means. Cycle, there is rebirth and rejuvenation. This is the idea or theme of cycling, means it refers to the idea of rebirth and rejuvenation, okay, in ruin. And modernist literature celebrates the endless cycle of destruction, as it ever gives rise to new forms of creations. Loss and exile. Modernist exile هو isolation. Modernist literature is also marked by themes of loss and exile. Okay, modernism rejected conventional truths and figures of authority, and modernists moved away from religion. This is their theme. Okay, to be against these things, you know, and these ideas or traditions. In modernist literature, man, okay, is assured that his own sense of morality trumps, you know, overtakes, to supersedes, or to win. But individualism results in feelings of isolation and loss. Themes of loss, isolation, and exile from society are particularly apparent in Ernest Hemingway's novels. Example, this is a good example, because this is their theme, you know, to be away, or to be in exile, and, you know, to be in isolation, in exile, to be alone. The protagonists of which adopt rather nihilistic, okay, outlooks of the world, because they have become so disenfranchised from the human community. Okay, اللي هو النيهيلستيك، you know, outlooks، اللي هي اللي بيسموها النيهيلستية أو العدمية. Okay, اللي هو يعني going against, you know, traditions and, you know, social forms. Okay, and this enfranchise اللي هو يعني to be deprived from. Okay, اللي هو الحرمان من. Okay, حق الشرع أو من الحق. Okay, 2 more pages. Okay, and then we go to a narrative authority. This is an element that refers to style, okay, of being formal. A narrative authority, another element of modernist, you know, other than the themes, you know, another element of modernist literature is the prevalent, the frequent use of personal pronouns: I, we, I. Okay, authority becomes a matter of perspective. There is no longer an anonymous, يعني non-known, without a name, an anonymous, omniscient third person narrator اللي هو using he, she, they, and someone, you know, a narrator who knows everything. There is no more of this, as there is no universal truth, according to the modernists. In fact, many modernist novels, like Faulkner's, for instance, feature multiple narrators. Okay, as many modernist poems في الويستلاند. Okay, بعدين feature multiple speakers in one work. The conflicting perspectives of various narrators and speakers reflect the multiplicity, many of different sides, okay, of truth, and the diversities different of reality that modernism celebrates. Last of this lecture, here we come to the end, اللي هو social evils, اللي هو modernist novels did not treat highly topics about social woes. Okay, social fears, يعني social woes, war and poverty. These social woes, social fears, war and poverty. John Steinbeck's Grapes and Wrath, important name of literary figure, and his work اللي هذه رواية مشهورة جدا لستينبيك. Grapes and Wrath. Okay. Frankly depicts, illustrates families plagued by economic يعني plagued by economic hardship and strife, contradicting idyllic depictions of American life represented elsewhere in literature. Modernist novels also reflect a frank awareness of societal ills of man's capacity for cruelty. Ernest Hemingway's, an example here again, Ernest Hemingway's anti-heroic war tales depicted the bloodiness, okay, the fearful of the battlefields, okay, as they dealt frankly with the horrors of war. Faulkner, particularly in his most famous novels, The Sound and the Fury, also shows how incomprehensibly cruel man can be, and especially with regard to racial and class differences. Okay, that's all for today, and this is the end of our lecture, and see you soon in our 7th lecture and in the last part of this introduction اللي هو الهارلم Renaissance. See you soon. Please, all what you need to do is just read again and again. You need to read a lot before we start our, samples of American literature. Please, any questions, any comments, please let me know. Contact me very soon. Thank you very much. Bye, everybody. Assalamu alaikum.